Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Running in Rehab. My name is Brett. I'm a 234 marathoner and I'm a third year DPT student. Today we're going to talk about an epidemic that may be going on with male runners. So if you're a male runner, you want to make sure you screen this muscle out. Check for any tightness and overuse. This muscle is called your tensor fascia lata, and it's a small muscle on the side, kind of in front of the hip joint. This muscle has three actions. So the muscle can flex your hip, move your knee up towards your hip. It can abduct your hip away from the midline, and it can also internally rotate your hip. So if this muscle is tight, you can see how this can cause issues. It can cause back pain, it can cause hip pain, and labral, too much internal rotation, flexion, can cause labral pathology. It can affect the cartilage that surrounds the ring of your hip socket. It can also make it tougher for the hip extensors like your glute max, and your hip external rotators. So you have these deep external rotator muscles of the hip, and it can cause those muscles to become inhibited and not be able to do their role quite as well as they should, due to this muscle getting tight and overused. So stick around. We're going to talk about how to treat this, how to diagnose this, how to treat this, and much more. So again, if this muscle is tight, a good way to start the diagnosis is to lie on your stomach, bend your knee up, and then just let your foot fall towards your opposite leg. While doing this, if your pelvis starts to rotate really early in the motion, that's a sign that your tensor fascia lata is tight. And the way that you diagnose it, right? Again, you lie on your stomach, you bend your knee, and you let it fall towards the opposite leg. So think about what we're doing here. We're in hip extension, right? When we bend our knee up and we let the leg fall towards the opposite leg, we're going into hip external rotation. And make sure your knee isn't too far out to the side. Make sure it's right under the hip or a little bit adducted. This way we optimally put the muscle on stretch, right? We do the opposite of the joint actions, and that's how you stretch a muscle. So again, once you bend your knee up, if you rotate it towards the opposite leg and your pelvis starts to rotate that way as well, you can see that this muscle is causing excessive rotation at your pelvis. Again, this is what can cause low back pain. It can cause, again, hip pain if it's too far flexed and rotated in. So this is your socket. This is what I keep doing. I keep trying to show you guys. This is the hip joint. Tensor fascia lata is going to flex and it's going to internally rotate into the front of your hip if it's tight. So that's a way to stretch. The diagnosis, so the way we just diagnosed it, is a way that you can treat this tight tensor fascia lata temporarily. So what do I mean by treating it temporarily? Well, do this motion, but keep your core stiff enough that your pelvis doesn't rotate along with your hip joint, right? Try to disassociate the pelvic rotation from the hip joint rotation. Next, guys, so let's get into some more treatments here, right? We want to stretch the ITB out. So stretch your iliotibial band out because your tensor fascia lata connects to your iliotibial band. So some iliotibial band stretches, some tensor fascia lata stretching, right? They're one and the same. And then the tensor fascia lata, find this muscle, palpate it, right? Feel around in the muscle. Does it feel tight? Does it feel tender? Is it painful? These are all signs that the tensor fascia lata is being overworked. And a little bit of your own soft tissue massage or foam rolling out of this muscle is a good start to treat the tensor fascia lata and get back to pain-free running. Now, if you find that the tensor fascia lata is tight, there's a good chance that the hip extensors and the hip external rotators, right, the opposite muscles of the tensor fascia lata, are not functioning optimally. So we want to take a look at those muscles. So things like single leg bridging, things like side lying clamshells are all ways to see if you're able to activate and feel those muscles working, right? Glute max, the small hip external rotators. Try to wake those muscles up, so to speak, and get them working synergistically with the TFL, because right now your TFL may just be too dominant at this point in time. So that can lead to an imbalance. Strengthening your hip extensors and your hip external rotators can help to fix the imbalance. Let's scale back and look at the big picture. Likely, this muscle just didn't get tight on its own. Likely, you're not using your primary hip flexors, things like your psoas major and iliacus. So, working on activating those muscle groups to help assist the tensor fasciae lata, so the tensor fasciae lata isn't doing all the hip extension, is another good place to start, as well as looking at your life, looking at the way you move. If your lifestyle is sedentary, the tensor fasciae lata may need a bit more stretching, taking breaks to stretch that muscle out and soft tissuing it out. But also look at your running form. Is your hip internally rotating, and are you using your tensor fasciae lata for all of your hip, for the majority of your hip flexion? So you got to take a look at your running form as well and make sure you're not overexerting the tensor fasciae lata while you're running. This can lead to inefficient mechanics and overwork, the overutilization of a small muscle that again can cause back, hip, and knee pain. So guys, work within your strength training. Make sure you're addressing the opposite muscles of the tensor fasciae lata. If you found that this muscle is overworked on you, please reach out, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you found that this muscle's tight on you, and let me know how your running's going. I would love to hear about it, and let me know what you guys want to see next.